Okay, and we are now live. Currently running a mixed freight right here with a GATX locomotive. And then over here we've got a coal train with a Canadian National E8. I can't remember which. But either way, we got some trains running on here. Hopefully some people will join in soon. And I have joined the Quarter Century Club. 25 years on this land. Anyway, let's quickly set it to live chat here. Hopefully, we'll see some messages. We've already got Missouri Rail Fan. Welcome. Train Man 710. No way. One of the first 100 subscribers is here. Welcome. Missouri Rail Fan. Am I early or what? I would say so. Good evening. Hi from Winnipeg. Union Mainline. Welcome. And as always, if anybody has any requests or questions, feel free to throw them in the chat here. Here I am. Thank you so much for joining the Well Folks Club for 12 months. That's a pretty good run. I have a question. I'll fire away. Ronald Rondu, welcome. Congrats on the Selkirk score. Thanks. I'm glad that engine worked out. If I'm honest, there was a lot more going on behind the scenes trying to find parts for that thing, but it all paid off. I mean, it runs now, so I'm pretty happy about that. And UP 1055 Productions, thank you so much for joining the Well Folks Club for 4 months. Can you run the Blue Goose with some passenger cars? I can probably run it with the Amtrak cars, yeah. My DCC decoder started smoking after a month of running. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And Trainman says, like the stream. Do you have the Union Pacific Big Boy? I do have one of the Big Boy models, but I tried to run it in the previous live stream and it was doing some funky stuff electrically. So I don't know if it has decoder issues or if there's a wire that's loose. But either way, I'm going to have to repair it before that can operate again. I have a broken cab forward from Riverossi. Do you have any tips for fixing that? I've done a repair video on one, so that might be helpful, but without knowing the specific issue on your model, I can't really say. And Pisces Myces, another kind of original subscriber, and he's asking if the decoder that fried was a Digitrax 123. I've heard a lot of stories about the Digitrax 123 being a bad decoder. I have a few myself, and none of them have gone bad so far, but if enough people are saying that, there must be something that's up with them. I hope you and Chloe are having a good week. It was a nice weekend. Celebrated my 25th there, and yeah, some friends came over here. It was a good time. And thank you so much for the super chat, UP 1055. And UP 1055 is asking to run either a GP60 or a GP40. I think we can make a GP40 happen. Does this count as a GP40? Have you considered posting some rail fanning videos? Well, I include some rail fanning shots occasionally in my videos, but generally I'm not a rail fan channel. Nothing against rail fanning channels. I just find that there's already so many of them out there that, it's just another drop in the bucket. And the other thing is that the Ottawa Valley is just not a very rich place in terms of different trains. Like, it's not a very industrial town. So we've got like a light rail set and we've got some via trains. and one freight train a week for the entire city. It's not much is happening around here. Pisces, Myces, I turned 40 a few days ago. Well, happy birthday. We might have the same birthday, actually. Which is better, Hornby or Bachman? If I had to put my money on one for reliability, I would probably say Hornby. But I mean, it depends on the model. I know Hornby has released a few models that were not very good. Bachman has obviously done the same, but it depends. Thank you so much for the super chat there, Mike. And it says, great layout. Do you still have the N scale layouts? I disassembled the N scale layout because I'm planning on actually adding it as an addition to this one. So I don't currently have one set up, but I plan to in the very near future. I hope to get that going as soon as possible. You ever played Gary's Mod? I can't say I have. I have a 12 wheel BNSF locomotive, and I noticed a little bit of trouble on the standard curve pieces. I'm going to try to use flex track so I can make the radius. Yeah, sometimes the 12 wheel sets will struggle on sharper corners, but also check to make sure that the trucks are rotating properly because sometimes you can just have a case where a wire or something is blocking it. Like, I'll grab an engine so I can show you what I'm talking about here. It's always a good idea on any engine you have, just to mess around with it, just like this. Because sometimes, you have something like this that's bent and it blocks the wheel set from moving, or your coupler box is in the way of your wheel set, or there's a detail that's hanging low. So it's always a good idea to check that before you go tearing up your layout. Because I have seen some instances where somebody has torn apart an entire section of their layout only to discover the engine was the problem and adding a wider radius didn't fix it. What's your go-to brand for starting model railroading? Just to buy a basic starter set, I would get the cheapest Bachman. I'm not a big Bachman fan, but you can find some sets for about 130 bucks, which isn't too bad. I think if you have a little bit more money on your hands, I would probably go with the Walther's Trainline starter set. Those are a little higher quality in terms of the engine and rolling stock. And if you are doing really well financially and you can afford to buy brand new, Cato is pretty nice. Thank you so much for the super chat, Arturo. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Hopefully your layout grows and you keep making videos. Well, that's the plan. I haven't decided what I want to do for the next layout build video, but I am trying to come up with some ideas. It took me over 20 years, but I've managed to collect all the engines from the President's Choice Christmas sets from the 90s. Well, congratulations. I mean, that's some good stuff right there. Thanks for the advice. I didn't think about that. Hey, Harrison, I sent you an email about the switchyard. Did you read it yet? If you sent me another email, I haven't. But I never got any email about a switchyard. I got an email which was part of some chain as part of a question about setting up a location for a haunt. So I don't think I was supposed to be included with that. But if you send that email again, I'll definitely have a look. And it looks like we got another super chat. This time it's again from 1055 Productions. Where I live, there's about 2 diamonds. They get like 20 trains a day, all Union Pacific. The main power is a Cotton Belt GP60 in its original colors. Well, that's lucky. Yeah, I wish I was near something like that. I'm sure that's a fun place to go rail fanning. Whenever I go down to the States, I do a little bit of rail fanning, like when I'm in Maine, because there's Amtrak and CSX stuff going by Route 1. And Ed Bately Jr., thank you so much for the 20. I hope this will be enough to start your videos on the trolley repair. Is there a specific trolley you want to see repaired? And Ellerly Parsons says we're a fan of any brand and it doesn't matter. We're all our own critic one way or another. That's a fact. feel like if I read that better, it would sound a bit more deep. But I mean, fundamentally, I do agree. Yeah, there people like one brand for one reason or another. Like I'm a really big fan of the older Atherns, just because even though they're not the prettiest engines out there, they're really easy to find parts for. They're super reliable and quite easy to mod. I don't know if I mentioned this, but I got two Williams Delaware Hudson SD45s, the same kind that portrayed Buster in I Love Toy Trains. I remember those. That's cool. How come I can't super chat you? If you've never sent a super chat before, sometimes like if you put a new credit card on file, it will block you. I've had that happen a couple times when I've been trying to give super chats on other people's live streams. Can you run an Erie Lackawanna if you have one? Yeah, sure. I'm just gonna quickly try to get the Blue Goose going here, and I'll try to find that engine while I'm at it. Do you have any GM and O locomotives you can run? I think so. Any trolley you've gotten from fans to be repaired? Well, I'll have a look because I've definitely got a few trolleys that are in need of repair. I got some in that lot. I'd say about, well, it was less than a year ago. I think it was last June or something. How do I fix the DCC train that pulls 84 amps unusually? I don't know how that's being measured, but I've never heard of an engine drawing more than like n amp, so I don't know if whatever tool you're using to measure is giving you bad readings or if there's something else going on there, but that doesn't sound quite right. If something's drawing a lot of amps, it probably is a short circuit, but it could also be a problem with the motor or I guess an issue with the decoder, but my money would be on the motor. 84 amps. I wonder how it's not on fire. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's about enough amperage to probably power a fairly sized like industrial motor for something. I mean, if you have a power supply for your model railroad that delivers 84 amps, I gotta tell you, like you're gonna have the ultimate club layout. Aren't most DCC systems rated for 14 amps max? I would be surprised. I think most of them are like maybe 4 amps. I think he means 0.84 amps. That's a good point, Bill. Yeah, so if it's drawing 8.4 amps, that's definitely to me that would sound symptomatic of a motor having issues. Sometimes you have dirt on the commutator and it comes off for a little while and then the commutator fouls again. I've had some engines that are a bit intermittent where they'll run well and then the current draw will spike. Do you have a Stewart in green, Chicago, and Western? I don't know if it's a Stewart, but I think I do. The standard light and plug in your home is about 15 to 20 amps, so 84 amps would fry your entire layout. Maybe it has one of those plugs for like a dryer. This is such a random thing, but when I was a kid, I always thought it was cool when something used a free. I can't speak English. When I was a kid, I always thought it was cool when something used a three prong plug. That's a tongue twister. Because I always thought things that used a three prong plug were like powerful. And so when I got my first actual controller for the layout, I was really disappointed when I saw it was only a two prong plug. I was like, oh, it's weak. I just looked it up. Most DC systems are 5 amps. Maybe with a power booster, but I don't know. I feel like the one I have is not that strong. Because I'm pretty sure my 9500 series, which is a pretty powerful DC controller, I think that that thing has an output of 3 amps, which is pretty good. But um, yeah, I want to say the DCS 51 is a maybe a 2.5 amp controller. I'll have to double check. I mean, the truth is, most DCC engines don't even need that much power. Like, I have some engines that only draw a tenth of an amp. So even a 1 amp controller, if you're using efficient engines, can be adequate. It's really only if you're running, like a larger steam engine, which has like smoke and lighting and all that. You might need a little more power if you're running a lot of engines, obviously. But generally, modern engines don't need that much to begin with. Can you run any Lionel engines in H of scale? Yeah, sure. Let me just catch up on some of these requests here. I don't know what you would think. Do you know what I think would be cool to have your Oldsmobile on one of those rotating dash lights that cops had from the 70s just stick on the roof? Yeah, I mean, it would be awesome to have one of those. I don't know how legal it is. I think in Canada, you can't put anything other than a green flashing light on your roof. Even that, I don't know if that's okay. Apparently, they used to use the Oldsmobile 98s as cop cars, and maybe they had faster engines or transmissions. I don't know if they were tuned differently from the regular Olds 98s, but my Oldsmobile would not make a good cop car. I mean, you go around a corner and it's like tilting and stuff. It's not very fast. Like, it's a good car. I love it, but I can't imagine trying to chase somebody down in one of those. It would look like the chase from Blues Brothers, where they're all sliding all over the place. Any updates on the Oldsmobile? Well, it's out of storage. I've been just driving it on short trips. But yeah, I had to do some work to get it running again. It was having some issues where the voltage was going up and down. And somebody in one of the live streams actually was like, maybe it's the voltage regulator. So I was like, okay, I'll have a look online. I was just going to replace the alternator. I found a voltage regulator from the 80s, which hadn't been opened. And so I bought that on eBay, 20 bucks, dismantled the alternator, threw it in there, and now it's perfect. So I don't know if that person's in here, but if it's you, thanks for that. How much of a miracle is it that that car is surviving as good as it is in Quebec? I don't know how it's possible. Almost every older car has been eaten by the salt out here. Cars just do not last, and the frame looks good. Was talking with a friend of mine, and he had a look, and he seemed to think it might have had a factory rust proofing thing, like they might have sprayed it down with something at the factory. But yeah, it's quite remarkable. I believe the car has been in the province for its entire existence too, because I ended up finding a whole bunch of receipts, which were from places about a 2-hour drive away in Quebec. So I believe it's been here. Some of the receipts were dated like 1997 and so on. And I know the car is from the 70s, but maybe it was already in the province before then. Harrison, I've been watching your channel for 3 years. I'm very impressed by how much the channel has grown. You and me both. I can't believe it. I bought a Rivarossi 2882 NNW yesterday, and it makes a low grinding noise when it runs. Doesn't go very fast. What should I do? Hmm. I would check to make sure that the wheels are quartered. There isn't any problems going on with the drivers, because I had a Rivarossi Big Boy, which was making a grinding noise, and it sounded like an issue with the gearbox, but it turned out it was actually the drivers becoming unquartered, and that was causing the gears to jump. And Matthew's sharing the specs on his NCE power cab. He says that for his, the track output is 2 amps at peak, and that should be enough to handle 12 locomotives and 16 consists. Can you run one of the 2 lines in the opposite direction? Sure, let me see if I can find the Erie Lackawanna locomotive or a Erie Lackawanna engine, and we'll run it in the opposite direction. I definitely have one. The question is, where the heck is it at? I don't know if this one has a knuckle coupler or not, but I'll check it out. Oh, there's nothing there. Hmm. I wish I could run this one. Fans of the channel will recognize it. It's affectionately named the Erie Hackawanna, based off the fact it burned up really bad and smoked out the basement, but it does still run. I did a rebuild video on that. But I believe I brought over the other Erie Lackawanna engine, and so if I could just figure out where it's at, then we could definitely run that, and it would probably be a little bit quieter than the engine that's currently on there. The Erie on fire. Well, that there's another engine that's been in the collection for a while called the Chesapeake on fire. That one also burned up and smoked out the basement. So they're kind of similar in that way, but 2 separate instances. Run a GG1. Yeah, sure. Let's do that because I can't seem to find a Erie Lackawanna engine with a good coupler. Tell you what, I think it's time to standardize my collection with some equipment that shares the same sorts of couplers. Hey there, David. Can you run RJ Corman number 2008? Yeah, I'll throw the GG1 on first. Get this thing running around here. It's so loud. Whoop, tripod's having problems. There we go. Can you run the 85 runaway train? Yeah, let me just catch up on a few of these requests here. Has anybody had any good luck buying the gold mystery box from Walthers? Well, just full disclosure, I didn't pay for mine because they sent it to me as part of a promotion, but I would have bought one. Honestly, like, the value I felt was really good. The only, I think, problem with mystery boxes is that, you're spending money on stuff you might not want, but if you're just looking to, like, add buildings and rolling stock and occasionally an engine to your collection randomly and you're not too picky about it, it's a lot cheaper than buying all the stuff a la carte, and I did do the math, uh, myself to make sure, the values they were claiming were as good as they were, and, they weren't bad. If I was getting started off in the hobby, I think it would be a great way just to kind of get your collection started off. The power cab is amazing. I have a 5 amp power booster and it is the best DCC controller I've ever used. I'd recommend it. I've never worked with a whole lot of power cab myself, but yeah, the people who like it seem to be pretty diehard fans, so they must be doing something right. When do you think you'll be putting the ravine back in place, and will you do a video on how to make it? I don't think it's going to be featured in a video, but as some of you might have noticed, it's actually already here on the floor. I brought it over from my parents' place recently, so it's really just a question of getting it reattached. But I'm looking forward to having it back. Honestly, I've missed it. Digitrax or NCE? Well, I've only ever used Digitrax, with the exception of NCE at a few friends' layouts and at a train club, but I this is one thing I will say, and I'm not trying to start a controversy because train derails, that should be symbolic. Yeah, I'm not trying to start a fight in the comments because I know the Digitrax NCE debate is a hot take in the community. But I did do a poll, and Digitrax absolutely destroyed NCE in terms of popularity. So take from that what you will. OVR has a system where you can actually tell the road names you want for a mystery box. That's a great idea. It would be really good if you could buy a mystery box based on era, because I mean, if you model like a layout that takes place in the 1920s and you buy one of those mystery boxes and it's stuff kind of made within like the last 30 years, I don't think it would be a really good fit. When you get the ravine back, you have to jump the General Lee over the ravine. Yeah, maybe it's time to paint the Acela orange. What's the next step for the layout expansion? I think it's going to be building some sort of a bridge, which is going to cross here. I actually bought a bridge, which I really hope will be a good fit for that. Getting the locomotive storage area all set up. And then after that, I want to try to build some sort of a massive bridge, which is going to go across here and then a track to turn around. All kind of complicated, but I'll figure it out. Now, there was another engine I was supposed to run as part of a request, and unfortunately, I forgot. See if I can find it here. It's gone too far away. I've used Digitrax and NC Power Cab. And what's the consensus? Can you run the Selkirk? Yeah, sure. It was the 85 runaway train. Okay, I'll run that first because I said I was going to, but yeah, we'll definitely get the Selkirk out. Sorry, J. Corman, number 2008. I need to write this stuff down. Okay, I'll put the RJ on first, follow it up with the 85, and then we'll finish it off with the Selkirk. We ever add pantographs to the layout? Are pentagraphs the same as catenary? Catenary? Because I'd always thought the pentagraph was just the thing that went on top of the engine, and the overhead wire was called the catenary or catenary. I don't know how it's pronounced. They're fine. Yeah, good diplomatic answer. Do you have any Atchison, Topeka, San Fe, Burlington route, NNW, MBTA, or Metrolink? Also, can you run some coil cars? I don't know if I have any coil cars on hand at the moment. I definitely do have some engines from those roads, though. If you had to start again, would you do HO again, or would you do N scale? Also, can you please run the Canadian National SD60F? SD60? You mean the SD90? And yeah, to answer your question, if I had to start all over, if something, yeah, somebody took the whole collection away from me and said you have to restart, I would pick HO again. And it's not a slight against N scale. I mean, if you are really limited on space, then N scale is definitely a great choice. Like that is its benefit. But personally, I just like HO because it's a little bit more of a common scale. You can find stuff going for a little bit cheaper, and it's easier to work on. No fake 80s music tonight. No 80s music, but I tell you what, that music is not fake. Genuine 80s music. This might be the slowest locomotive that I own. This is wide open throttle right here. I don't know if I can mess with the CVs to make this thing run a little bit faster, but yeah, it's not a fast engine. I've gone from O to N due to space restrictions. I wouldn't wish my electrical problems on anyone. Yeah, that's the thing with N scales. Like when you scale everything down, everything just becomes a little bit more sensitive. Like a lot of the times with like an O scale engine, if it's broken, it's really easy to fix. Same thing goes for any. Sorry, I just got distracted because of a joke. Yeah, it's really easy to fix, and same thing with HO. But when you go down to N scale, the motors are so tiny. Trying to clean the commutator can be a little bit of a trick sometimes. Anyway, the thing I thought funny is that somebody, was saying I wouldn't wish the electrical problems on anyone, and then Bill says, "I hear it draws 84 amps." What car should I get? A third generation Toyota or a Mazda CX-5? I would get the Toyota. Is there a way to make a locomotive scream less? I have an Athearn blue box switcher, and it sounds like a jet engine. Well, if it's one from like the 50s, the parts might just be worn and stuff. But adding oil can definitely help, especially like a grease in some case can quiet down really worn out parts. But yeah, there's only so much you can do. That and vibration dampening. If sometimes if you replace the motor mounts or replace the motor itself, 'cause the flywheels are not bouncing around as much, you can reduce the sound. But the truth is, older engines are just kind of loud. You've encouraged me to finally start on my layout after 40 plus years of thinking about it. I love your channel. Well, never too late to start. And it really makes me happy to hear that. And yeah, if you ever have any questions, feel free to send me an email. SMT was a main central in the green paint scheme made by Stewart with a bad armature. Do you still have it? I do. I'm not sure if it's here, but that was actually the engine I was referring to earlier when I was talking about a commutator that sometimes seems to work and other times fouls again. Is the Waffle House up yet? Not at the moment. I had it on the extension for a while. I'll have to recover the building. It must have gone off in one of the other rooms. I think your trains are supposed to be inbound and outbound. Well, they were for a moment. I'll change that when we throw the 1985 runaway train on. And Der Deutsch Professor says, I'm German. I live in Germany. I had two Lexus Toyota quality product. Yeah, my family has had a ton of Toyota products. We had at least one or two Mazdas as well, and they weren't terrible cars, but I'm a bigger fan of Toyota myself. The only bad thing about Toyotas, but I mean, you can kind of say the same thing about any Japanese cars, that the engine is solid, the transmission is solid, the frame is solid until it has like three winters here, and then the salts just chews it all up, and then you have a lot of rust issues. Like my family used to have a Forerunner, it was a 2013, so it wasn't even that old, and it had 250,000 kilometers on it. The transmission was still shifting beautifully. The V6 was still running perfectly. The frame was starting to have issues, and we had to get rid of it. Do you have a GM classic car? Yeah, it's in the GM family. It's an Oldsmobile, very similar looking to the Chevy Caprice and Cadillacs of the same era. CVT transmissions are now an Achilles heel. Personally, I would never buy any vehicle with a C a CVT transmission. My snowmobile has a CTV, but over engineered part for a small application. I think in a car it's a little bit of a different story. I have a 90 Ford a 95 Ford pickup, and if it were not for the liner, it would have no bed. It's funny you say that. I remember years ago, my friend Riley was fixing up an old Datsun, and this was like a real repair. Like it was out in a field for 20 years, and it was rusted so badly. And my friend Hugo, who's a mechanic, was like, "Well, why don't you have it acid dipped? It could eat away all the rust, and you'll have a good frame." And he's like, "Because I don't think I'll get my car back." And he's like, "Yeah, but rust is not structural." And he's like, "Well, it is in this car." I don't know if the Datsun ever was fixed because he moved out to Prince Edward Island, but I don't know. I'll have to double check on that. I'd love to know if the Datsun is on the road again. Hopefully with some good welding. Thank you so much for the super chat, Frank. I hope this helps the channel and brings a wee bit of joy to the layout. Well, I'll definitely put it to good use. So yes, slap a little Bondo on there and it'll be like new. Yeah, Bondo, spray foam, all the tricks people use. Colby's Project Bin, welcome. The pickup marks its spot. Yeah, my Oldsmobile does that too. The power steering very slowly leaks, and so wherever I park it in the garage, there's like a little puddle. It's not too bad, but you do know. Let's see if I can get the 1985 runaway train running on the inside circuit. I want to see if we can pull some cars. Has the girlfriend moved in with you? Not yet. The house is still a work in progress, but eventually. We have AAA. I use that a lot. I've never had luck with that roadside assistance. Like every time we call them up, there's never anybody around to help you. So with the Oldsmobile, my strategy is I just bring a bunch of tools around wherever I drive, and if it does something weird on me, hopefully I have the know-how and enough stuff to fix it up. Knock on wood, my parents bought me triple for a beater car in college, and they had to use it with their new cars way more than I have. Well, it was funny because the Oldsmobile is kind of a beater. Like it's not a horrible looking car or anything, but I mean it's almost a 50-year-old car with the original engine and the original transmission. So, as you would expect, it's not going to be perfect, but last fall, my daily driver was having issues, and I was really worried the timing belt was having a problem, and it was about to. So luckily, caught it in time. But yeah, for a week, the Oldsmobile was the daily, and I was just treating it like a regular car. Driving it to go get groceries and from the house, going to the hardware store and everything and stuff. And I thought, I don't know, it's kind of cool. Like this car is actually being a car again, and not just a toy. I think this thing has a bit of a coupler. Oh no, a coupler on that one is bad, but it doesn't matter because the whole thing's getting pushed forward. Whoops. There we go. Do you have any recommendations for HO locomotive brands? Once I move, I plan to get into the hobby. If you want something cheap and used, get old Athearn and Atlas engines. If you want something cheap and new, like the cheapest, get Bachmann. If you want something better than a Bachmann but still affordable, get a Walther's train line. And if you want something really nice, get yourself a Kato or any of the top of the line brands like Athearn and um, maybe Atlas is pretty good still. I would say I'm definitely missing a bunch, but that's what comes to mind. Cars were meant to be driven back then. Well, that's what I find funny is that, there are videos online saying, "Can you daily drive a classic car?" And there's always a bunch of people in the comments saying yes, because that's what they were doing before they became classics. But it is funny driving a car from the 70s around because I always get three different types of reactions. If it's a person kind of closer to my grandparents' age, it's like, oh, I remember when I was like 30 years old, I had a similar car like this. I raised the family and I took them on road trips. And then if it's somebody kind of closer to my parents' age, it's like, oh, my parents had one of these when they were a kid. And I remember being in the back, going on road trips, so on and so forth. And then for people, of my like age, they're just like, this is crazy. Like it's so different from cars today, like just how everything is proportioned and the fact that every door has a cigarette lighter in it and stuff. Like it is a different world. Can you run a 1970s Tyco GG1 in Tuscan red? If I have one over here, absolutely. I don't think I've brought a whole lot of my Tyco engines over. I've got a couple of them here and there's one there, but I don't know if I brought any of the GG ones over yet. One of the harder problems with classic cars is fuel mileage. My grandparents' old Cadillac got 15 miles a gallon. Yeah, they were not good for fuel economy, that's for sure. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think I have the Tyco GG1. Happy Monday, Harrison. Can you tell me your email? I want to ask advice for my 4x8 layout. Yeah, it's scrumptiousmodeltrains at gmail.com. You can go on my about section and there should be a thing that says like contact for business inquiries, and you can click on that and get the email address. My Athearn Blue Box runs on a wall power pack. It goes pretty fast. You mean like a wall wart? Technically, that would work. Like if you just bought a charger and it had DC output of like 12 volts at a maybe like 1 amp, it would. I mean, you wouldn't have any speed control, but it would function. Can we see the Selkirk run with the passenger cars now? Yeah, sure. Back in the day, they were stealing bumpers off cars. I finally got mine welded on the '84 Lincoln Town Car. Yeah, I heard that also stealing rims and stealing hubcaps were a big issue back then. I know because it actually happened to my granddad on his '70s Cadillac. He came back from dinner and the car was on blocks. What's your opinion on Concore HO scale? I've been looking for a model of the Union Pacific M10000. From my experience, Concore is pretty well made. I don't own too many of their products, but I believe they might have been made in Japan, and I think they're quite similar to Kato's. If anybody in the comments knows more about them, please feel free to share, good or bad. What's the point of stealing rims? Honestly, it's a waste of time. People do that are idiots. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, stealing anything is bad, but I think the thing is, back in the day, rims were worth a lot more. Whereas, there's like a lot of, if you're just talking about not the rims, but the hubcaps, like most people just put some cheap, like $20 hubcaps on their cars, and you don't even have to steal them. Just walk along the ditches around Canada. The roads are so bad, the ditches are lined with hubcaps. They're free. And nobody cares because $20 hubcap. My granddad used to do a trick where he'd buy a set of hubcaps for the car, and then when the car lost one, he'd buy another set of hubcaps, and he'd have one set on one side and one on the other. And since he can't see both sides of the car at the same time, it didn't matter. And then, that way he was able to swap one out at a time. Are Bachmann Spectrum engines worth it? Nah, I don't know. I don't find that they're that much better than regular Bachmann. I mean, the detail is certainly an upgrade, but mechanically, I don't know. The late Concours engines use Cato motors, but that could just be an N-scale thing. And Randall says Concours is okay, not great. I wasn't a big fan of their rolling stock. Do you think that $30 for a Proto 2000 locomotive is a good deal? If it runs, I would say so. The only thing you have to watch out for is those is that sometimes they have bad gears, and so if you buy one with bad gears, it's fixable. They actually still sell genuine replacements. However, I think they cost about, I want to say it's $10 for a pack of 3 wheel sets. So to replace all the wheel sets on an 8 wheel locomotive, you're gonna be spending about $20. So Yeah, $30 is a good deal if it runs well, but if it has bad gears, just keep that in mind. It runs perfectly. Oh, then yeah, great deal. Okay, why is the Selkirk shorted now? It was not like this when I put it into storage. Okay, that's weird. I don't think either of the wheel sets flipped around. Is this like shorted against something? Storage gremlins. Yeah, I tell you. Didn't you fix that in the last video? Yeah, that's why I don't understand why it's shorted. I thought we were past this point. I should just double check quickly that it's not the engine having a problem here, because sometimes something else can short it out. So let's just check. And I'm just doing a test right now, and I'm not seeing any current load without the engine on the track. So clearly it is an issue with the engine. So question is, what's going on? I don't know. Let's just try throwing it back on the track and hope that whatever's going on has fixed itself. Well, looks like we got a new member here. Oh, hold on a minute. Kason CSX Man, thank you for becoming a member. Daryl Yard, what's your favorite railway? BNSF. And George, thank you for joining the Well Folks Club. Back to the workbench. It might be. Okay, let's see without the tender on the track if there's any short. And there's not. Now, with the two separated, I'll test it again. Still no short circuit, so unfortunately, I think something is wrong internally. Because if it was just shorted to the body, the engine would probably have a short without being connected to the tender. No. Okay, this is weird. Now it's not shorted, but the engine is also not moving, so what is going on? I am so confused right now. Hammer time. I think this one is asking for it. I'm just gonna spike the track and see if there is power in it. Yeah, there is power in the track, so now we've got the opposite problem. First it was shorted, and I picked it up, and yeah, nothing's Bill's saying, "Give her 100 amps, Harrison." Well, I don't know what kind of gremlins have crawled inside this engine and are unplugging wires in and unplugging them, but I don't think this thing is going to run. No idea why. It was working perfectly before I put it into storage for like 3 days, and yeah, now it's doing this. Maybe she's just camera shy, never been in front of a live audience before. It's the brass diecast ghost. Yeah, absolutely. I know what you mean, SMT. I've got an old GHC Camelback, and it's brass and diecast never runs good. Some of them, if they've been put together really well, some of the later brass and die-cast engines can be fine. But yeah, when the entire body is made of metal, there's just so many opportunities for there to be a short circuit that compared to a plastic engine, there's just more to go wrong. I did find out though, because I went to Larkspur Line during the day for my birthday, and one of the guys who works there, Robert, had seen that I bought one of these, and so he decided to look it up in a catalog. And it turns out this engine was made between 1963 and 64. If it was part of the original run, I guess they did a second run in the 70s, but I don't think this was part of that. So that's kind of cool. Model trains, constant repairs. Well, especially stuff that's brass. Spray rubber cement throughout the interior of the engine so that nothing can short circuit. That might be a good idea. I suspect something's probably just going on with the solder. Check the wires inside, they seem messy. I probably should have just gotten rid of that wiring and replaced it with my own. I just didn't want to mess around with it because it seemed to be working okay. And as any engineer will tell you, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, it's fine. Let's gamble with more brass and die cast. Okay, Spirit of Casey Jones, I need you to help me make sure this thing runs. Yeah. I spent 4 months trying to get it to work because the motor looked like junk. Eventually, I got it running, but it wasn't very good, like a new steam engine. I think it was made between 1957 or 1958. I really like working on 50s engines because they're quirky, but yeah, I feel like the 60s was really where they kind of got the designs of stuff down pat. Like I got some Varney engines from the 50s and they're great, but they're so overbuilt. I have an RS3 DC that lights up on the battery test and I can hear noise coming from it, but nothing moves. If you had to guess, where should I start looking? It's an Atlas RS3. Okay, so if the light is coming on and you can hear noise coming from it, you know that the engine's getting power. So the electrical system's okay. You can kind of rule that out. If it's not moving, I would say it's probably seized. So what I would do is open it up and see if you can turn the motor over gently by hand. Like if there's a flywheel or something, just gently try to turn that. And if it moves, that's great. Don't force it, but in all likelihood, you have an issue with your gearbox. Oh my goodness, somebody just let me have a look here. Whoa. Thank you so much, Professor, for the $100 super chat. That's incredibly generous. Happy birthday with whatever you need. Well, thank you a million. I'll put it to good use for something down here. That's crazy. Wow. Here's Bill, your birthday, Harrison. It was a couple days ago, yeah. Everybody in the comments is saying W. It's nice. I have a Concord N-Scale Union Pacific Express service set limited edition. It's the very first one. I wonder what that dates back to. Meanwhile, while you're talking about 50s locomotives, rubber band drive engines are sitting in the corner that are completely forgotten by everybody in the hobby. Yeah, if you're somebody out there that still uses band drives, I gotta give you credit. You got some staying power. They're fine engines. You just need to replace those bands so often. Eh, they are cheap if you want budget engines. I tell you what. Harrison, what's the creepiest, spookiest, eeriest thing that has happened to you on the original layout in the basement? Nothing is coming to mind, but yeah, not much so far at the new house. I probably shouldn't say that. Something terrifying will happen around here. I remember my parents' place, they would go off to Maine for vacations sometimes. Well, not for vacation, but to go work on the house down in Maine. And so they would head off for about a month, and I'd be living there alone. And I'd be up late at night working on videos. I'd be a bit too tired, and I swear I could hear the floor crunching, and it sounded like footsteps, and that was a little eerie. Thank you so much for the super chat, George. This video game character walking. I'm not sure what sticker that is. I originally wanted a little rubber band drive Athearn Hustler, but someone bought an Athearn kit and made it geared. Well, honestly, I mean that's probably a blessing because the gearboxes are way better than the band drives. But yeah, if you still want a band drive engine, they're a dime a dozen. Just go to any train show, yard sale, you'll find them. Just go to a train club and just ask anybody, "Hey, do you have a band drive engine?" They'll probably give you one for free. Hello, SMT. Can you run a post-war American Flyer steam train? If you don't have a post-war, can you run a normal American Flyer or a super long Santa Fe? Well, I definitely have some American Flyer HO. I'll just have a look back here and see if I can find any of it. Again, still moving stuff over from my parents' place to here, so I may or may not have that. Band drive engines are quite comical and fun. Yeah, bring one of those to the train club. You'll definitely be the talk of the town. I've got some Athearn Blue Box engines. I've been trying to clean the commutator with an eraser to get the black streak off, but it's not working. Please help. Okay, if that happens where you clean the commutator and it instantly becomes dirty again, there's a chance that somebody oiled it and that's just oil coming out of the brushes. You can put some rubbing alcohol on it to get it out, but don't run the engine while the rubbing alcohol is in there because it will ignite the rubbing alcohol and the motor will catch fire in your hands. I learned that one the hard way. But honestly, a grease streak is not a very big problem. The bigger issue is just cleaning out those gaps. Like that's what you want to keep on top of. Eventually, the grease will just after a few cleanings will work its way out. Jersey Bill, thank you so much for the 20. You should have had this on your birthday. I would have gave you 21 because I am not the professor. Well, thank you very much. Hey, SMT, I want to get my boyfriend a cheap train set. What company should I go with? Well, if you have $130, you can get yourself a variety of cheap Bachmann sets on Amazon. Just set your price limit. Like type in HO scales train set, and then limit the price between 100. Well, limit it to 90, between 90 and 140, and you'll kind of find the sets I'm talking about. If you've got a little bit more money to roll with, then get like a Walther's train line set, one of the DC ones. I love it. Cheap in quality or cheap in price? I'd imagine price. I bought a bobber caboose and I turned it into a band drive unit. Took it to the club one. Everybody loved that thing. I'm being begged to bring it back. It sounds like you're part of a good train club if they have that kind of humor. I really liked bringing the jumbo Santa Fe to the train club. Everybody would always do a double take. Like at first, they would see it in the corner of their eye and be like, "Oh, it's a Santa Fe ABA set," and then they would look a little bit more carefully and be like, "Am I seeing stuff, or is that a giant Santa Fe engine?" So, yeah, that kind of stuff is always good. My first car was a 1978 Olds Cutlass Supreme. When I turned 18 in '86, I bought a new 20. Oh, I bought it when I turned 18 in 1986. I bought a new 2024 Mazda CX-30 with sport luxury all-wheel drive. Love it. If you're running trains clockwise, how do you use your yard? You have to back them up. And that's why I'm hoping to add another track right here so it can fix that problem. Hey, SMT, did you know that the plastic AHM locomotives are made with is flammable from experience? I had a Cola SD40 burn hotter than a wood stove. Well, pretty much any HO scale engine that's made of plastic is going to be flammable. I mean, plastic is oil based, so it is a combustible material. I know some plastics are more flame resistant than others, but yeah, you have to be careful. I guess that's one benefit to brass and die cast engines. Unfortunately, I can't seem to find that American Flyer steam engine, so I guess we'll run something else here. Not to sound rude or anything, but did you forget about the American Flyer? No, I didn't forget. I just can't find it. SMT, did you hear that Big Boy 4014 is going to run an excursion on the Reading and Northern along with the T1? I Yeah, I mean that would be amazing. Is the T1 what kind of shape is the T1 in these days? Is this HO or double O? Most of my collection is HO, but I do have some double O stuff, which will work on the layout because the switches are double O. How popular is ON30? I have an ON30 Coca-Cola train set. My wife and I want to start building a layout. I have Aurora model slot cars I've had since the 60s, mostly T-Jets, but some AFX. ON30 is not super common in my experience, but you can find stuff for it. And one benefit to ON30 is that it runs on HO scale track. So one thing you can do is, you could build an HO layout, and have all HO scale buildings, which is a super common scale. And if you really just want to run that Coca Cola train for fun, you can still do so because it's the same size track. I know it will look a little funny, being larger than the buildings and so on, but that's probably what I would do if you already have it and you want to expand. Just expand using HO and just keep the Coca Cola train around for fun. The brushes were tinfoil. in my first locomotive. It was a Lifelake GP38 that melted internally. I think that the plates are made of steel, but yeah, sometimes those will oxidize. The buildings really look good lit up. Yeah, I'll have to add some lights to the rest of them. I at least got the bandstand gazebo all lit up again for the first time since I moved it over here. Still need to get the firehouse and the church and general stores and everything all lit up as well, but it's a step in the right direction. I'm redoing a lot of the electrical too because I didn't really like the way it was. So I rewired all of Main Street and so on. So it should be a lot more reliable and safer. I have a question. I have 500 HO scale trees and I only have a 4x8 layout. What do I put them on? Uh, I mean, trees are pretty sought after. They're expensive, so sell them and use the money to buy more stuff for the 4x8. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if you were really into forestry, you could build a 4x8 with 500 trees, but I feel like it would be pretty dense. So yeah, that's what I would do. If you have that many trees, just sell some of them off. I'm sure someone will want them, and yeah, probably buy something pretty nice with the money, honestly. Has Chloe been helping with the layout redo? Nothing so far. I mean, she hasn't had a whole lot of experience in the hobby. She did help me build one of the layouts for a friend's son. You know, she's in one of the videos, like helping to paint the mountains and so on. But that's about it. But she has been helping out around the house, which is nice. You should put some abandoned trains on your abandoned track. That's a great idea. ZE or Zeb Rails. Howdy, Harrison. I'm unsure if you're a hockey fan. I don't want to stereotype all Canadians as such, but completely chuffed to say my Philadelphia Flyers playoff first time in 6 years. Well, congratulations on that. Personally, I'm not super into hockey. Yeah, some Canadian guy, right? But yeah, nothing against the sport. I respect it. It is a huge part of the country, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, sports in general, I just don't follow that closely, to be honest. Which is probably a good thing because I heard Canada didn't do so well in the last Olympics. Hardy har har. I will call you Unlucky Tug 2.0. All right. You should fix the display 040. Yes. Yeah, I should buy a new motor for that. Harrison, I really like what you're doing with the layout. I've added a 8-foot section of mine. It will house the roundhouse and turntable. This is Hurley from Minnesota, a fellow mile. Forest Fair Mall is 100% gone now. Yeah, I know. I miss that place. But what can you do? Life goes on. Do the bears in Canada drink maple syrup while watching hockey? The bears don't, but the mooses do. Greetings from Alberta. Could you please run the Selkirk at some point? I like seeing the progress on the layout rebuild. Thank you so much for the super chat. And I really wish I could. I actually tried to run the Selkirk a few minutes ago, and for some reason it wouldn't start. At first it was shorted out, and then the second time it refused to pick up power. So I don't know if a wire is broken inside it, but yeah, she's not having it. Is there any locomotives that actually steam SMT? If you mean live steam, I don't have any of the models that do. If you mean the ones that just shoot some smoke out the stack, I have a couple, but I don't know if I have any working ones at the moment. Frankly, as much as I like the smoke effects from steam locomotives, I feel like it'd be good if you had a well ventilated basement, which my parents' place wasn't, and neither is this place, being from the 50s. Because the time I filmed the video where I unboxed the QJ, of course, I'm always filming these videos way longer than they're edited down. So I was down there that night for about 2 hours breathing in the smoke stuff. And that night I went to bed and my throat was burning so bad from it. So I was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. I've seen that some guys in the hobby are figuring out ways to actually make a water-based steam, which comes out of the stack, and instead of it using heat, it vibrates, and so it aerosolizes the water vapor, kind of like those diffusers that every soccer mom has. And it's a good idea. The only flaw I think I could see is that water and model trains are not a very good combination. So I don't know if you had a bunch of steam engines which are shooting out water vapors all over your layout, if you're not going to have electrical problems. And huge thanks to Nicola for joining the Well Folks, or Nicholas, sorry, for 3 months. Howdy, Harrison. I really enjoyed your videos, especially the repair vids. I've learned a few techniques from you. I'm glad to hear that. It's basically a mini humidifier. Yeah, I guess you could call it that. Hornby locomotives already made engines that made vapor. Yeah, the Hornby live steam engines. Those looked like a lot of fun, but I heard some stories that they didn't actually work that well. What's the editing software you use for your videos? I'm trying to get into making videos and I want to know. I use two editing softwares. The first one is iMovie, which is just, it's okay for just doing basic edits. But for kind of more complicated edits, or if I have to kind of adjust contrast and stuff, I use DaVinci Resolve, which is amazing software. It's a bit expensive, but if you have the means, you can do a lot more with it. Sound effects are plenty enough for me. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Hey, SMT, I was running my trains while watching your live stream, and the same thing happened with your other train that happened with mine. It's currently short circuiting. Well, maybe I should try to run the Selkirk again. Maybe the gremlins moved from my layout to yours. Smoke juice is propylene and glycol based. Well, personally, I'm no chemist, so I don't know what the effects of, burning that stuff and breathing it in are, but one rule that almost everybody I know who's in a healthcare is that anything that's not air going into your lungs is bad. So I don't know, maybe that stuff's not that harmful, but yeah, I tell you what, after that night of being downstairs at the QJ for 2 hours, I wasn't feeling great. I use CapCut to make my shorts. Have you ever used it before? I can't say I have. I was using I'm trying to remember the name. It was some sort of it was some sort of a website where you'd upload your video and it would convert it into shorts, but it had a lot of problems. I don't remember. And Colby's Project Bin says there's a free app on my phone for editing called VN Video Editor. It works well for years. If anyone's looking for that, is another suggestion. That's a toxic chemical. Oh, I have an old Tyco Spirit of 70 or Tyco 72. The coaches have lead paint on the metal frames. I'm making them on my own railroad, an MT4. It's going to be the Delaware and Wellsboro. I put mint extract in a Rapido steam engine generator. It's white oil. It made my trains run great. It smelled heavenly. Well, that sounds really pleasant. Around Christmas time, I was putting some pine scented oil in one of my Lionel engines. Been using DaVinci Resolve to edit videos. I think yeah, and I think DaVinci Resolve 2 does have a free version which has a lot of the features. I bought the full version, but I don't know what the difference between the two is. I think somebody sent in another super chat here. Whoops. There we go. Yep. And Luna Lovegood, I like the name. Happy birthday, Harrison. You and your channel have helped me a lot as I've been building my first layout. I appreciate your down to earth approach to building the hobby and your style with how you run your channel. Cheers to 25. Well, thank you a lot for the super chat, but also for that really nice message. That's very thoughtful. And it means a lot, you know. I make these videos and stuff, and it's not the most conventional way of kind of building a model railroad, but it's great to hear people are, you know, getting into the hobby and enjoying it because of that. So thank you. Put the red car on the rails. Which red car? My name is Keith. I've been watching your channel for a long time, and you've inspired me to start a channel. I thought I would come on and say thanks. Glad to hear it. What's your opinion on modern Lionel? I feel like they only make the Polar Express set now for brand recognition instead of making the original sets. Imagine a modern scale M 10,000. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, hating on current Lionel is just the trend these days. There's so many videos out there of people just bashing Lionel. And I feel like that is warranted to some extent, you know. They're upcharging a lot for stuff which is not very high, like very well detailed. Like when I caught my Lionel set, my HO one, I was really excited for that, and I still ended up liking it, but for the money, I didn't feel like it was a great value. So, are they awful all around? I don't think so. Are they overpriced for what you get? Absolutely. Are you accepting gift boxes? I want to send you a gift. The PO box is not open at the moment because I just want to kind of catch up with some of these other projects and stuff. I just feel kind of bad because there have been, you know, after moving to the new house and stuff, there was a real like kind of space between opening some boxes and stuff, and I don't want people to be waiting months for me to open stuff. So I'm just keeping it closed until I can kind of catch up with things around here. There are plenty of Lionel engines that cost more than a crappy Toyota. It's crazy. Yeah, well, my 1969 Sea Ray boat was $500, so I have some model trains that are worth more than a 16-foot boat. Thank you so much for the super chat, Nicholas. What should I use to make a layout in terms of material? Personally, I've been trying out OSB. I know some people use plywood, which you can definitely use. It's just that you want to make sure it doesn't warp or anything, so put a lot of screws in it. But yeah, I'd recommend going with a hard surface. Some people also use styrofoam, and I've done that before. Although after what happened on Ken Patterson's layout, I'm a little less sure if it's a good idea from a fire standpoint. So anyway, I guess what I'm trying to say is go with a wood surface. Hey Harrison, I have a question. Being that my 4x8 is a bit big for where I live now, my brother suggested that I make it smaller and make my own design using the previous owner's design. Well, I mean, if it's not too hard to cut off a side of it and shorten it, yeah, I feel like that's a good idea. If you can, try to leave it at least a 4x6, if not a 4x7 though, because the thing about building any layout, the reason 4x8s are so popular is because the length of the straights means that you can add a lot of switches and stuff, so you can angle stuff into the yard and so on. And when you kind of shorten the layout, the curves become closer together, so there's less room in the straights to add curves. I know you can add curved turnouts, but that's a little bit more complicated. How are you going to spend the birthday money? I'll probably dump it right into the layout expansion. Is it better to build a layout with a hard surface or styrofoam? At this point, I'm gonna say a hard surface. Styrofoam is good if you want to add like depressions into the layout and stuff. But even for mountains, I don't use styrofoam. I just use cardboard. So I don't see anything wrong with this. Switches are not inexpensive anymore. Yeah, absolutely. Any advice for people out there that want to get into model railroading? I think the best way to get into model railroading is just to get yourself a really cheap starter set, like $130 starter set, and then move on from it as quick as you can. And the reason I say that is because you get yourself a starter set, you're kind of dipping your toes into the water, and you'll get the feel of what it's like to be in a model railroading. The reason I say move on from it as quick as possible is because you get the box and it's exciting. You get it out of the box, you set it up. This is a great time, and then it's just going around in circles and circles and circles, and it leaves out the fun of actually building up a layout and making scenery and adding on to it and stuff. So just make sure if you buy a starter set, you get out of the starter set phase quickly because you don't want to get stuck there. But yeah, yeah, it's a good way to just kind of get a feel for the hobby. It's an introduction. Is there a difference between narrow gauge Katy couplers and regular gauge Katys? I don't know. Probably. I think the ones I use are 148s. I like the new switching yard, and all it needs is a switcher because without one, Gordon will have to get his own coaches. I'm of the opinion you should always use a hard surface under the track, but rest the scenery, hills, and so on foam or another material. Yeah, that's fair. If you want another steam engine, try the 2021 to 2022 run of the Athearn Genesis MT4 Daylight HO scale. Great sound and quality. I'll have to have a look for that. I'm going to make an L-shaped layout in the corner of my room. Any advice for L-shaped layouts? Well, I would say one thing I did learn about L-shaped layouts was that it's a really good idea to add, well, you can kind of see what I've done right here where I've got mitered edges. The reason I say that is because in the construction of an L-shaped layout, you get yourself a corner and track is curved. So yeah, add yourself a piece like this. That way you can actually, make your track flow through the corners easier. Into the hobby, keep watching SMT. It's part of the reason I like your channel. Too old to start and no room to build. Well, I appreciate the support, but I feel like I need to make more content because there's a lot of people that say that I don't have enough space or enough money to build a layout, and there are ways to get around it. SMT, some more trains. Somebody said SMT stood for so many trains, which I thought was pretty good. Never too old to start. Exactly. Exactly. I don't want to discredit what somebody is saying about their situation, but my goal is to make some layouts that are gonna like focus more on saving space and building on a budget, so on and so forth. I saw you have a video in a playlist about a Tyco turbo train. Would you ever want one? Buddy, hold on a minute here. It's not in the best shape, but I do have one. Layouts don't have to be huge, just even a switching yard can be quite functional for a few feet of space. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that build a 3 foot by 1 foot switching layout. Some people even built some layouts that fit on like a desk. But yeah, didn't Dirth Santa Fe do a video where he repowered a Tyco turbo train? He did. I think he came up with some brass thing. Yeah, let me see if I can flip this around. The stuff on the inside is all kind of messed up, so I think that's why the box is not shut here. Hold on a minute. Yeah, so this thing predates the channel by quite a long time. When I was like maybe 12 years old, I saw the ad on YouTube for these 80s train sets and I desperately wanted one. And so for Christmas, I asked for one and my mom found one on eBay. I got it, took it out of the box. Lo and behold, the controller was junk and it just didn't start and it was missing a bunch of parts and stuff like that. So it did not work. So I was kind of bummed out about that because I really wanted to try one of these things. So for the Christmas the following year, I just asked for another one of these, and my grandparents ended up getting me a second one, and then between the two sets, I was able to get a working Tyco turbo train. And I'm surprised to say that this actually functions like it does in the ads. It seems a little bit crazy, a train that can jump and go up walls and flip over itself, but Yeah, with a bit of fandangling, I was able to get it to function. I'll have to do a video on this one day, but it's one of those things in the hobby that not everybody likes. That's the one from the video. How many amps does it take? I'd say at least 120, which is best, a mechanical bell or a modern electric bell? Let's go mechanical. Canadian Locomotive Logistics. Are they here right now? If Canadian Locomotive Logistics in here, I really like your train simulator. That is quite a cool thing. Thank you so much for the super chat, Chuck. Happy 25th. Thanks, all four of you, all four in the hobby. It's a joy to watch. Is the Blue Goose operational? All right, I'll put it on again. SMT, are you starting to be a financial advisor with telling of what type and stuff to buy? No, I'm not a financial advisor. If that's supposed to be some sort of a way to pin me into breaking the law. No, I would never consider myself a financial advisor. I don't work on Wall Street. Thank you very much. Yeah, and for anybody who hasn't seen it, Canadian Locomotive Logistics actually managed to. I don't know how this works, but it's like a live feed from the cab of a HO scale engine on the layout, and you can actually control it with a system which looks very similar to Microsoft Train Simulator. Anyway, it's a cool online thing. I don't know if it's operational at the moment, and I'm sure they can say there, but yeah, definitely one of the coolest things I've seen in the hobby. It reminded me a little bit of the one I did couple of years ago, where I had a control and a live feed, but the fact that it's actually being run over the internet on a live stream is just like another level. It's really cool. I have more layouts online now. Oh, well, that's great to hear. At 50, it's the coolest thing I've seen in the hobby thus far. Opinions are not advice, so you're safe. All right. Does the black GG1 run? I think it does. Nerf Cat is training with Chuck Norris to kill the devil and use an 86 amp DCC controller. Oh yeah, Nerf Kitty is powering the layout. When's the next giveaway going to be? I don't have any planned at the moment, but I don't know. I'll come up with something. I find a lot of the giveaways I do, it's not really like I plan to have a giveaway. It's more like I'm at a train show or something and I find a really good deal and I want to share it with everybody. So I just decide to do a giveaway then. Okay, this was running earlier as well, and now it doesn't want to. Oh, that's good. I thought we had the Selkirk effect going on here. Do you still have the 20th Century Limited? If so, can you run it? I definitely didn't get rid of it. I feel like I brought it over to the house. I don't know. Let's have a look. I see the layout is coming along great. I like seeing your updates from New Mexico. SMT, a super chat went by from ARG Koi. It was for $5. Okay, thank you for letting me know about that, Matthew. I'll have a look. Okay, yeah, there we go. Sorry for missing that. ARG Koi, hey SMT, I love listening to your videos while I do coding in high HW. It's cool seeing you fix lost cause locomotives. Will you put in a signal system? I haven't put together any kind of a plan. I would like to add some signals to my layout, but I would have to figure out based on my track work how to practically lay those out. I don't know a crazy amount about signals, so I think I'd have to kind of learn the rules of the road first and then figure out where to put them. But yeah, it's in the cards. Are you gonna do G scale in the basement? Mm, more tempted to take it outside, but I don't know. We'll see. Happy birthday. See the number balloons. Thank you. You're the reason I stayed in the hobby. Glad to hear it. I thought the Dreyfus Hudson was on the top shelf, but I'm not seeing it. There it is. I don't remember if it runs or not. We're going to find out. Put a hole in the wall for the inside outside G scale. That's a neat idea. Have you ever left your province to go to a larger train show? Yeah, well, I mean, most of the train shows I go to are in Ontario. In fact, I've even been to some train shows in the United States. I've written code to run signals off an arguing microprocessor. It's pretty cheap and the code isn't too difficult to learn. Well, if you haven't already, you should definitely share all that online because I'm sure there's a lot of people that would love to know how to do that. What's your favorite train show to go to? I think well, it's not a train show, it's technically a flea market, but my favorite market to go to is the OVA or flea market every year because the deals are always insane and there's usually a ton of old junk around there that I can pick up for pennies on the dollar. Other than that, I'm a pretty big fan of the train show in Messina, New York, and the Arn Pryor train show is usually decent. I really like Elmer Train Show, which is, kind of the closest one to me. It's actually, on my side of the river, but it's a bit hit or miss. Some years I've been to the Elmer Train Show and there's been like a decent amount of stuff and displays, and other years there's been like three layouts and one guy selling some stuff. It's actually coming up pretty soon, and I plan to be at that one. So if anybody is in the Ottawa Valley, definitely head out there. But I'm hoping for 2026 to finally make it out to Amherst. It's not a promise at the moment because who knows where things are going to be at in terms of the house and everything by that point. But I don't know. It's been too long. I think it'd be a lot of fun to be there. One of these days too, I'll have to make it out to one of the train shows in the Toronto area. All the train shows are 200 amps or more from me. Yeah, well, with the exception of the Elmer train show, most of the train shows I go to are about an hour drive, sometimes 2 hours, and it doesn't really bother me. The only thing I hate driving through cities. That's the only part of driving I really do not like is when you're having to drive through a city during traffic. But just being out on the highway cruising, you got some music going, maybe some like a burger or something. It can be a nice time. It's great. You got some friends you can chat, or even just being alone sometimes, just driving. I don't know. I don't when you're on a highway and you don't have to think too hard. It's a good time to clear your head. Did you watch Sesame Street? Oh yeah, I watched that. Can't wait to go to Amherst. I might get my brother to go too. Hey, Sim I'm gonna head off. I don't know what time it is for you, but I gotta get some sleep. It was a great night. Yeah, it's almost 11 where I'm at. Have you ever been to West Coast in Canada, like BC or Vancouver Island? I haven't been to Vancouver Island, but I have been to Vancouver and parts of British Columbia. I was in Squamish for a couple days in 2021. I have a friend who's really into rock climbing. So she took her van across Canada, and then I flew out there and met up with her. And so the first day was in Vancouver, and then we headed out to Squamish, and we're staying with some people. And I was hoping to get to see the Squamish Railway Museum while I was there, but we were on a pretty tight band in terms of time, and then we ended up heading towards Calgary, where there were some other people we knew living, and we stayed with them for a couple days, and that's where I actually got to uh, go to that store Trains and Such, which was amazing. And then the rest of the trip was pretty much just driving. Canadian Locomotives Logistics said something to you about a show. Whoop. Canada. Okay, that's one comment from Canadian Logistics Company. I feel like comments are being organized because I'm having a lot of trouble finding them. Oh, I think this is it. In September, I'm going to a show east of Kitchener. Is that too far to go? I'll consider it. I know Sparky and some of the other guys are around there, so I'd love to visit at some point. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't know where everything is gonna land. Do you have any Florida East Coast engines? Got a couple. I don't know if any of them are here. I've been out to the Squamish Train Museum. It had the most beautiful steam engine. I think it was the Royal Hudson. I looked if I could buy an HO scale model, but I couldn't find the exact one. I wouldn't be surprised if Rapido sells a model of that. Have you ever heard of the Canadian train from Toronto to Vancouver or ever rode on it? I have heard of it. I When I was supposed to go out to Vancouver, I was actually thinking about traveling across the country by train, but I think it takes 4 days, and so I just wasn't sure if that was going to be like practical. Do you have any snow left? Not a whole lot. It's mostly melted off at this point, which I'm pretty happy about. Today it was nice. It was, I would say, about 21 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in freedom units, but it's warm enough to be outside in a shirt. That's the Via Rail Canadian, about 5 days across Canada from Toronto to Vancouver. When are you gonna upload a normal video? What is a normal video? Like a like another repair video? 69 degrees in Fahrenheit. Nice. Nice today in Pennsylvania. For the MT4 on Train World, they have it for 399 for sale. It was originally 560. I got mine for 387 after tax US dollars. It does have traction tires. Do they come with replacement wheels? Because I know some manufacturers, they give you traction tires, but they also give you a replacement wheel set if you want to remove them. If the Canadian Hudson was blue, then the Royal Hudson. Otherwise, the other Hudson was 2816 Empress of the Rails. Well, I think the blue Hudson was 2850, but today it's back to its original paint scheme. I think it was only painted for the royal visit, because 2850 not only pulled the royal train, but Canadian Pacific also displayed it at Smith Falls at the Hershey factory when they opened it. If I could have been around then, I think I would have been beside myself, beside myself, being at the Hershey factory in Smith Falls, and there being four different locomotives there on display, like trains and chocolate. And things get any better. What was interesting is that Smith Falls used to have its trains and chocolate fair every year. I'm pretty sure Oakdale, California, which had a very similar Hershey factory, I think they had the exact same event every year. So I don't know if it was something initiated by Hershey's, but it's sort of interesting. I'm so excited to see how the yard is going to look when it's finished. I also like the track plan for the basement. Well, I'm happy to hear that. Have you ever been to Northlands, Layout, New Jersey? I've been wanting to go maybe sometime this summer. I've never been myself. I do know some people in the chat here who have. It looks like an exciting place. I think it's under new ownership, so I'm not sure what improvements they've made. But even out in Canada, I keep finding those little lifelike Northlands cars. It's funny how far those things can get. And David says I've been to Northlands. It's worth a visit. Is the Hershey factory closed now? I had a tour there once. Yeah, so the Hershey factory in Smith Falls is closed, and so is the one in Oakdale. The one in Oakdale has reopened, but it's under a different manufacturer. I forget the name, but there's some other chocolate candy maker in there, so it's still kind of running to an extent. The factory in Smith Falls is not operational, although Hershey's bought it back a couple of years ago, so maybe they want to resume operations. I don't know. And Isaac's Garage says, I guess the model does not have replacements and it doesn't have traction tires. Well, hopefully there's some sort of aftermarket traction tires that can be thrown on it. One thing that's great about this hobby is that people are very creative when it comes to finding solutions. And if they can find a way to share those solutions, it can really be helpful because there are all kinds of models which I didn't think you could find traction tires for. And some people have found traction tires which are similarly sized for other manufacturers' products that work. So it's great when people find little hacks like that. I haven't been to Northlands in a while, but their Instagram account, I've noticed some maintenance being done to the scenery. It looked a bit worn out the last time I was there. Well, from my understanding, it had kind of fallen into disrepair and it was actually, I think, supposed to be demolished. So I guess the new ownership at Northlands is trying to kind of revive it. I hope they're successful with that. It even in, rougher condition, it does look like an impressive place. Especially if you know manufacturing slash CNC machining at home, you can really make your own parts. Yeah, I never met the guy, but a family friend apparently has a relative in Europe who scratch builds his own models, and he has like a miniature lathe for making the little wheels and everything. So he's not even like going out and like kit bashing. He's just straight up like just buying metal and building engines with it. No idea what scale or if they're just for display or if they actually run, but it's pretty next level. What's your favorite steam engine? I know your favorite diesel is the Dash 9, the Hiawatha. Well, Walthers sells a solution called Bullfrog Snot. It's basically a traction tire compound in a jar. I've seen that, especially since I've actually had to take it off some engines. I've done work on, but never worked with it myself. Should probably just buy some. If you pull off the highway and watch in Lansing, Michigan, off I-69 at the GM plant, the train yard is pretty cool. Well, it wouldn't be impossible. My dad is from Ann Arbor, which is only about an hour away. So I don't know. Maybe if I'm ever up there again, I could go on by. My car was actually made in Lansing, though. I forget the name of the factory, but it was the Oldsmobile factory in Lansing. I don't know if I would be able to if I went over to Ann Arbor with my dad. I don't know if I'd be able to convince him to go to Lansing. I'm only kidding about that, but I know that between the two football teams, there's a little bit of rivalry. In the UK, where double O is dominant, I recently learned there's a couple of different 4 millimeter scales where they tried to be double O scale, but with correct to scale track gauge. Huh, I've never heard of that. Is that, I was gonna say TT scale, but that's not right, because if they were trying to build the correct gauge for double O scale, the tracks would be wider. Weird. I would love to see pictures of that, honestly. I'd be curious to see what that kind of track would look like. I like the new section of the lands. I like the new section, but the landscaping needs some work. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I need to first of all fix up this mountain and then yeah, add some scenery and stuff to this. Right now I'm just trying to get the track all sorted out, but yeah. Any chance you'll come down to America and see 4014 on its 250 tour? I would really like to. It's not impossible, but it's not coming as far north as I was hoping. I was kind of optimistic when they said coast to coast that that meant like, from California to Florida or something. And it seems more like the engine's going to Pennsylvania and then kind of going straight to Texas. So technically it's coast to coast, but it's kind of a shortcut in my opinion. I'm not trying to criticize Union Pacific. I'm sure the amount of money they'd have to burn to make that work is already a lot, but not really what I had in mind when they said coast to coast. Are you planning on recreating the mountains using the chicken wire method like Unlucky Tug did? I'm just gonna use the cardboard method I've been using with deli paper. I mean, I know the mountains right now look a little bit worse for wear, but I'm happy with the results. So I think if I could patch things up a bit, this could look pretty darn decent. I think you should do another incline section on the mountain layout, just a steady climb around the outer walls. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I would fit that in here, but it's not impossible. It would be pretty cool if we had like a track kind of creeping around the side of that mountain right there. We could call it Virginia Creeper. The haunted house has a tilt in it. I don't know if anybody like if there's any similar places, but in Ottawa at the Science and Tech Museum, they built this room which is tilted, and it had like it was a kitchen, and the whole thing is tilted to one side, and it's supposed to mess with your sense of balance because since the room is tilted but everything is upright, it's supposed to make you dizzy or something. But it's called the Crazy Kitchen. It hasn't changed since like the 60s, and everybody's very fond of it. So look up the Crazy Kitchen in Ottawa, Science and Tech Museum. It's kind of weird thing in Ottawa that everybody loves. Virginia Creeper's Peak. You could run the Norfolk Southern 1069 on it, the Virginian Heritage Unit. Nice Angus poster. Thank you. This came with the house. Found it up in the ceiling. So I'm assuming it was a forbidden poster or something here. Yeah, if we build the Virginia Creeper, we could definitely I don't know, run this thing on it. ACD. I wonder how many amps. I have a feeling that this joke is gonna live on way past this live stream. There's gonna be people who join the channel or join the live streams, and they're gonna think that everybody is out of their mind talking about 200 amp layouts. You should make a helix for the upper layout. I've been tempted to build a helix, but almost everybody who has built a helix has said that I shouldn't. I don't know. I mean, technically, the video where I was running the layout off a boat battery, the layout was 1,000 amps. You have any heritage units? I have the Montana Rail Link Essential Workers unit, but that's it. Speaking of AC, I learned in a recent trip to Italy that in HO in Europe there are standards in analog for two rail DC, three rail AC, and three rail AC. It's even more non-standard in digital. Yeah, and especially in places like Germany, three rail AC seems to be the preferred method. There are some benefits to it, but it's just interesting that in England and North America it was almost all two rail DC, and then in other parts of Europe like Germany they decided to go with the other system. I've been doing my homework for most of the live stream, and the amperage joke flew past me as well. Yeah, well, for anybody who wasn't there, somebody early on in the live stream said that their engine was drawing 84 amps, and so and Bill pointed out it was probably like 0.84 amps, but maybe I misunderstood or something. But either way, yeah, that's where it all began. Would you ever consider adding a trestle bridge to the layout? Not a big one, just a Western style part of the layout. Maybe so. How many volts are in an amp? Well, volts and amps are not the same, like they're two different units of measurement. So, like, for example, if you're driving on a highway and you have like a smart car and a truck, and they're both going 60 miles an hour, they're both going the same speed. So that could be your voltage, but the truck is carrying more weight. So that would be your amperage. If that makes sense. Like the amps are the load and the volts are kind of the pressure that's in the system. So if you increase the voltage, the amperage goes up um in your motor, but it also depends on the efficiency of the motor. It's complicated to explain. You have any Blue Goose locomotives? I got a Rivarossi one recently. Yeah, I've got two of them. Conrail or no rail? You should throw a Conrail engine on. There's a video on YouTube about volts and amps. There's a lot of good ones, especially the ones that kind of explain the whole it's not the volts that will get you, it's the amps statement that seems to be said quite often. Oh, here's David's explanation. In a water hose, voltage would be the pressure in the hose, and amps would be the size of the hose. Yeah. Is it possible to connect a DCC controller to two separate loops of track and run them simultaneously? Well, yeah, sort of. You could like this layout is basically wired that way because these two sets of tracks are electrically isolated from each other. So you can run both sets of tracks at the same time, but if like a train derails on one circuit and it's wired to the other circuit, even if the two are separate, the short is still going to affect the other set, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's if you want to run two separate circuits, you just take your two wires from your DCC controller and then you just put a couple Ys to, send them to different rails. I'm quite impressed by how well this thing is running. This was struggling earlier in the year, and whatever maintenance I did on it seems to have fixed it. Note to self: 120 volts running up your index finger and thumb does not feel great. Yeah, I mean, that's the spicy stuff right there. I don't know how much voltage is in an electric fence, but I've been shocked by one of those a couple times, and it hurts. When I was in HVAC training, somebody purposely left the power running to a gas furnace through the safety switch, so when I reached in, it bit back. Oy. Yeah, one thing I always do whenever I'm working on anything with over 60 volts is I have one of those pens that you put near wires and it detects voltage. I forget what those are called, but it's a good double check. Sometimes when I don't know, wiring up like a light fixture or something, I just shut off power to the entire house. Big switch, and then double check just to make sure, somebody hasn't hot wired something. I know that's kind of redundant, but I'd rather be too careful than get hurt, especially on a metal ladder. 20,000 volts in an electric fence, but hardly any amps. I wonder what the voltage would be for the kind that keeps horses in, because that's the kind I've been shocked by before. There's one time the farm, the electric part of the fence had somehow come off the insulator, and it was sitting on the fence, and it was raining, and so the whole gate became electrified, and so I somehow opened the gate and it didn't shock me, but then when I went to close it, I don't know if the hinges made contact or something, but it was like that. Live a little and take a chance. I just don't see the benefit of the risk. Like, there are some things in life, I don't know, mountain climbing, where there's like a benefit to the risk. Getting shocked by a light fixture, there's no fun in that. Got a shock weld, stick welding. I so far I haven't had that happen with my welder, although I don't have a stick welder. I've got one of those ones, what is it, a MIG, the kind where it works kind of like a glue gun, wire feed. I was fiddling with a Bachmann Spectrum DC locomotive on power with the chassis and the frame being all metal. I couldn't figure out why my hand felt tingly every time I picked it up. Yeah, I've had that happen a couple times before. I think it's because the Bachmann split frames, I guess, just give your hand more of a surface area. You can actually feel the power in them because, I mean, you know, I can put, good portion of my hand on the track and nothing happens. But with those split frame motors, for some reason, you can feel the power. We have a MIG welder at work. I'm usually the go-to welding guy to hold up better than everyone else. I've done the same thing with the Bachmann split frames before. It's just a rite of passage. If you're going to work on model trains, you have to grab a Bachmann split frame and unexpectedly get a little surprise from it. Got a buzz from my track before. Well, I'm pretty sure if you like put your whole hand to it, maybe it's because I'm running it on DC power right now, but I can't. Well, I can feel it a little bit. It's very mild though. What happened to the other sizes of layouts? I have them all here. I just haven't set any of them up. I had the N scale layout running for a little while, and then I ended up taking that down because I just want to kind of start fresh with it. DCC is a different animal. Yeah, well, DCC has got that DC squared, which alternates. So I assume it's got to be similar to AC, where it is stronger. Put your chin to the rails on DCC power and see how it goes. I can't say I haven't done that one before. Yeah, I've done that too. DCC has more power in general. Well, I don't know because like in the case of the controllers I have, this guy goes up to about 18 volts and this one's 14 volts. But again, this one's got the alternating power versus this one's just got, direct power. DCC is basically 12 volts for fractions of a second at a time. The DC voltage goes up and down depending on the speed setting. DCC is for getting enough power to the motor for a loco to have a decent torque at low speed. My DCC controller can go to 18 volts. Most DC controllers are 16 volts. That seems awfully high for a DCC controller because, from what I understand, the reason the Digitrax controller only goes up to 14 volts is because by keeping the voltage lower, things are a little easier on the motor and stuff. There's slight less risk of burning stuff up. But I think my Bachmann Easy Command controller was 16 volts. I have a couple DC controllers that go up to 21 volts. Casey says the older DC AC controllers had an ability to pulse or surge the power up on startup to give trains a smooth start and stop. Well, one of my controllers has that. See, it's got this switch right here called nudge. But this is the one. This can put out 21 volts because on the back there's a switch to switch it to run on G scale, and so it bumps up the volts a little there, and you can see that at the same amount of power on the speed dial, this is going a lot faster. Not a great thing to do on most engines. The Athearn motors can take some abuse, so probably wouldn't hurt anything for a while. But if you did that on a Tyco, I don't know. Who knows if I'll ever finish the Appalachian Limited D&W Railroad? Would you like to see it? Tag me. Sorry, by posting and tagging you. Yeah, sure. And David says, I built a DC controller with a 20-volt laptop power supply and a PWM voltage controller. How much did that cost you, David? Because what I've been trying to figure out, again, for somebody who's like on a limited budget, if there's a way to like scratch build a controller which is has a circuit breaker and is safer than like a used controller. The benefit of DCC is decoders usually have integrated keep alives to help deal with dirty track. Yeah, that is a benefit. The amount of keep alives they put on a scale trains engine is unreal. Like you can pick the engine up off the track, and by the time you've placed it on whatever surface you have, it's still powered up. Voltage keep alives and decoders are really neat, but I have yet to get one. I think that the decoder I installed in the Tycho Golden Eagle might have had a keep alive because there was a capacitor attached to it. Maybe it was for the sound system. I don't know, but that could have been what was going on. You can put keep alives in DC engines, they'll work the same way. $5 for the LED voltmeter. That's not bad. I think that adding keep alives would probably be a great idea, especially if you're working with like an 040 or a four-wheel diesel where you don't have a whole lot of contact area, because those are the ones that are they always struggle to keep going. That and those little rail vehicles, those like little jeeps and stuff you can get to run on your railroad, those things never run right. Honestly, some of them might as well be battery powered at this point. It's going to be interesting to see where the battery technology fits into model railroading. I know a lot of people are into what's called dead rail, which is you don't have any power in the track and you just have a battery inside the locomotive. I know some people really like it, especially for outdoor layouts, which makes a lot of sense where you've got moisture and stuff constantly oxidizing the track, and so you can just have the power inside the engine and not worry about any of that. Personally, I'm not eager to get into it just because, first of all, for the amount of engines I have, having that many batteries around, feel like is a fire hazard. And I don't know. There's something I like about the fact that my grandmother's engine from her childhood runs on the same track as you know the stuff I have from my childhood. And if things go completely dead rail, I don't know. I feel like it kind of cuts that off. DIY DC can be very cheap, but have very little or no protection when shorted. That's my only concern. I mean, somebody who knows what they're doing with that stuff, it's not a problem. Like somebody like David who put that together, he knows what he's doing, right? But my only concern would be for a beginner that might not know as much about electricity is that maybe they wouldn't know that and end up starting a fire or something. 'Cause I'm planning on making a video though on how to revive an old train set, like just how to take, an old collection that's been sitting for a while and get it all up and running again. So I actually had a family friend give me his old set from the 80s. But one of the things I want to touch on in that video is, you know, it's probably a good idea to replace your controller out of those sets. So I feel like those old Tyco controllers with the metal casing, like those have got to be dangerous. I've never been shocked by one myself, but just the fact you've got a metal case, mm, personally, I don't like worrying about battery charge for stuff like that. Can be plugged in. No sense in running dead rail indoors when rails are perfectly good conductors for power delivery. Yeah, I agree with that. Laptop power supplies have good protection. If you short it, just unplug it for a minute and let it reset. That's good. Have you ever heard of a fuse that stops electricity? If it shorts, you need extras, but they work 100% of the time. Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess if you have a point, like for model railroading, I don't know, like a half amp fuse maybe, but I feel like you could, if you had a mild enough short circuit, you could actually have a situation where something burns up without the fuse intervening. Of course, it would depend on how sensitive the fuse is, but if you make the fuse too sensitive, then just by putting two engines on the track, you might end up popping them. Do you like fantasy paint schemes? I really do. Yeah, I've got quite a few of them myself. I've seen companies start developing circuit breakers for DCC layouts as of recent. Well, I had thought almost every DC controller already had a bit of a circuit breaker because at least on my DCS 51, if you short the track bad enough, it just cuts power to the whole layout. And my Bachmann Easy Command was the same thing. If you shorted it, it would it would go into this mode where one of the lights would blink and stuff, and it would cut power to the track. old DC power packs have many problems. Many don't have fuses or breakers or even pass UL and other safety testings. Yeah, and that's like I feel like if you have an old train set, like the engine and the track and everything else, it might not be ideal stuff, but is it dangerous? Probably not. But the controller is the only thing where I'm like, yeah, I feel like if somebody revives an old set, it's probably not great to use the original controller because, well, for all those reasons. What are your plans for your spur and the trestle over the center gap? Well, I've been trying to figure that out because I want the yards to, be at a decent angle. And the trick is that this track over it kind of overturns a bit. Like the switch is too tight. Now I don't want to rip this switch out because trying to build this whole section of track was pretty complicated. But I can't trim the rail back any further there. So I'm thinking that either the track goes straight for a second and then curves into the yard, and I don't know how that's gonna look. But yeah, we'll see. I'm just trying to figure out how to get this all to line up correctly. The Bridge of Doom. It's not gonna be the Bridge of Doom. It's that guy's is gonna be added on. I showed up here late. Are we talking about this because of what happened to Ken Patterson? Yeah, I mean that was definitely a good example, but no, it's more just in general though. Because even before the thing with Ken, those older DC controllers were already, I don't know, just considered a little bit questionable. I remember one time, me and my friends there, we were at Larkspur Line in Merrickville, and we were digging through a box of old train stuff. There was a lot of really cool things in there, but one of them was a controller, and the cord had just dry rotted. Like the rubber had just come right off it, so you just had like exposed metal in places, and I'm like, should probably just throw this out right away. Like I would hate for some kid to buy this thing and take it home. Can you run 777? Yeah, I have it right here. Can you run the Selkirk? I already tried to run the Selkirk. Apparently, I'm gonna have to open that guy up another time because something's not working. It was shorted and then it wouldn't pick up power, so probably a loose wire. Hey, SMT, I've got a die-cast metal 060 steam locomotive that the gear at the center of the drive wheel is stuck. It won't let me turn the wheels, but the motor works fine. Any tips? Sounds to me like maybe you've got a problem with your eccentric crank. I would look at the engine upside down and check to make sure, I don't know, nothing's binding up. Is $40 a good deal for an HO scale Bachmann GP38-2 Norfolk Southern locomotive from a train show? Hmm. If it's a modern one and it's in working order, like it's all-wheel drive, I would say that's okay. If it's one of the older ones that's only four-wheel drive, that's a bit of a ripoff in my opinion. You run the Centennial. Yeah, I'd like to run the Centennial. I haven't run it in a while. I wonder if it's here. Oh, it is. Been questioning, but what if you let the camera keep on rolling? You mean like just leave the live stream running all night with the trains running? I think that I mean maybe I'd wake up the next morning and everything would still be operating, or maybe I'd wake up the next morning and find that the layout and everything else is gone because something derailed and had a little fire. It's modern and still in the same box with maintenance instructions, papers. It runs good. Yeah, I think if it's in good working order and it's modern, $40 is not bad. How's the new house been? I've been liking it. Nothing major's happened here recently. I've just kind of been mostly doing stuff outside actually, just like yard work and so on now that the snow is starting to melt. Wonder how the Centennial is going to do through these curves. I think this is the first time I've run it through them. 40 isn't bad at all for a modern Bachmann diesel. Yeah, doesn't derail. Good. How'd you make that tunnel on your layout? Well, the tunnel over there is just a portal, so you can either you can buy a mold and you can fill it with putty and kind of get that out, or you can just buy like tunnel portals. Most hobby shops have them. I don't know if I missed a comment, but there's a few in here without any context, which I really don't quite understand what the heck is actually going on. I just had to rebuild the start of a curve on my layout. It turns out trying to figure out all the radius in a curve switch is more trouble than it's worth, but Pico Streamline switches are for the win. Will the new house have an outdoor layout SMT? I'm strongly considering it. I'm not sure where outside I'd want to put it, but yeah, I don't know. Oh, excuse me. Can you run a Canadiana? Yeah, sure. I have some Atlas switches on my layout and was about to upgrade. Oh, hold on a minute here. I was about to upgrade to Pico ones, but I bought some and realized they're a different radius, so it will be a headache. Yeah, I don't know. Might be worth just throwing those in storage and buying some of the originals. All right. That started pretty well for a Tycho. I had the Polar Express G scale outside for Christmas. It kept getting blown off the tracks. I've been to N scale. Is Kato better than Lifelike? I would say so, but I don't think that the proto Lifelikes in N scale were that bad. My layout is using Atlas Flex Track and Pico Insulfrog switches. All are code 100, so I can run Rivarossi stuff. Well, Casey, that's exactly what I use on my layout. It's all Atlas Track with the exception of the switches. That's where I go with Pico. Kato wins. There is a lot of reasons I think people like Kato. I mean, they're well-made engines, especially in N scale. I mean, I feel like people in HO scale like Kato. I don't hear people bad-mouthing them, but especially the N scale community, they rally around Kato like I don't know. I can't think of a comparison, but yeah, they like it a lot. Proto 2000 lifelikes are the second best mechanism to after Kato. Did you know that the HO Lionel set, all the boxcars in the set had provinces on them? Yeah, I've seen that set before. If I'm not mistaken, I actually have one of the cars from it with the Quebec flag. They had one with all the other Canadian provinces, but the guy wanted like $10 a car, so it's going to cost like I don't know. Maybe it was more than $10. I don't remember, but in all, it was going to cost me like $120 to buy the whole train, and I was like, yeah, I'm not spending that much. If I could find one cheap, I'd definitely love to have that. If they tried to make an American version of that train, that would be pretty long. The Canadian set had an FA locomotive. Yeah, I've seen. Well, I'm pretty sure the set at the train show. Yeah, it definitely had an FA locomotive. I think it might have even had a B unit too. Somebody's asking me. I don't know. I feel like that's a trick word. Harrison, do you still have the Acela that that kid threw across the room because he was mad or something? Yeah, well, that was the same Acela that recently jumped the canyon right here. It's also the same one that flew off the layout in 2019. So that Cella's got some stories to tell. But yeah, the reason the kid threw the Acela, it had nothing to do with me. It was just that they were angry at somebody else and they wanted to throw something at them. And the first thing they picked, of course, had to be like one of the most expensive engines I had at the time. And what are your preferred thoughts on DCC compared to conventional switches and isolated blocks? Okay, well, this is a convoluted answer, but for just running a layout without blocks and everything like that, I prefer DC. It's just simple. You put DC power in your track, the engine runs. No punching in numbers, less electrical problems. It's simpler. So I like that. But for running multiple trains on the same track, DCC all the way. Just because trying to coordinate the blocks and wire that all together. It's complicated and I don't even know how many people still use electrical blocks. If you do, I have respect for you because it's a skill and kind of a dying part of the hobby. But yeah, I don't think it's as practical for like a club layout or even well, your own layout if you want to run it with a bunch of stuff at the same time. Are you gonna put more seasonal pictures on your wall, such as winter, spring, and summer? I don't have any plans to. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I need a winter one because that's one part of the year I usually don't miss. I'm currently wiring up my layout as DC, and the complexity just to add a couple blocks start growing exponentially, and then you decide where your blocks are. It's just a pain in the long term. Yeah, I mean, the only reason like my layout has had some electrical blocks, but not electrical blocks like that are part of the main line. Like I have spurs and things like that. Like for a long time, this was an electrical block, and the benefit there is that I could park an engine there, and no matter if I was running DC or DCC, I could keep the engine just parked there and not worry about it. And then if I wanted to run it, I could just turn on that section of track. So for things like that, it's great. But just trying to be like, okay, this is block A, C, B, so on and so forth. That's where I feel like it starts to get a lot more complicated. Our winters are not even gone in Manitoba. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm kind of surprised. I thought you guys were a little more south. 'Cause, yeah, lately in Quebec, things have been melting off, and I'm loving it. Does your cell still run? If so, can you run it? Sure. I think I'll throw that on as the final train of the night because it's almost well, it is 12 o'clock. But yeah, I'm fortunate enough to live in Florida. I love our winters. Well, I'm pretty jealous. I'm not gonna lie. Does the streetcar operate? Yeah, the Acela's running a little bit fast. So I think the power torque might have stalled. Or no, actually, it didn't stall. You get 4 seasons in the Western PA sometimes during the same day. That happens up here too. I mean, it will be freezing at night, and then during the day, when you're out in the sun, it's not so bad. Things. I mean, the weather's awful right now. It's just like rain, but it's warm outside, and that's all I really want. Everybody's saying, "Oh, it's so depressing. It's like gloomy," and I'm just like, "No, it's nice. Things are melting off." I should host a winter going away party. I'm currently saving up for a Bachmann ALC 42. Does anyone have one? How is it? Is the horn decent? Do the street view of the layout here. And Colby says, I have a friend with an ALC 42, and I've heard they're fairly weak pullers. Yeah, the PO box is closed at the moment. Trains are moving. Yeah, I'll have to run the Acela by at train show speed. Why does slowing this down cause a derailment? I think I must have hit the brakes a little too fast, and the slack in the cars somehow caused the this to jump. There we go. All is right in the world. Have you ever got your dad's steam locomotive going? Well, it was in working order. I just need to clean the contacts and throw a new motor in it. But yeah, I'll definitely have to do that because no, there's no reason it shouldn't be in working order. Funny thing about liking similar trains and modeling a short line is things like can't pull much aren't problems for me. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I mean, in my case too, I have to say, like a lot of people are like talking about all the prices of everything and in the hobby are going crazy and stuff. And I don't want this to come across the wrong way because like obviously I feel bad that, it's trickier for people to purchase stuff. And I mean for track and things like that, I do notice a difference. But I mean, because I usually buy used stuff, it doesn't reflect as much. Streetcars going interurban speeds, yeah, for sure. It is the 040 a Rivarossi AHM. I'm pretty sure it's a lifelike, but it might have been made with Rivarossi tooling. I know that lifelike and Rivarossi, there's well, an AHM too for that matter. There was some crossover there. Oh no, and maybe it is an AHM. Well, yeah, it says made in Yugoslavia, but some of Lifelike's products were also made in Yugoslavia, so who knows? Could have been sold as an AHM, could have been sold as a lifelike, but I don't think it was as a Rivarossi, even though there was a bit of Rivarossi esque to it. Yeah, I would love to throw a really good motor, like maybe a compact 5 pole motor in there, something that can run at a low RPM and just get this thing like crawling along, get the lighting all rewired and everything. I don't know. We'll work some magic on her. Yeah, anyway, I think I'm going to finish off the live stream. I'll read a few last comments here. It says the best part of the hobby is how used stuff from the 80s is still cheap as chips and still works just as well as it did in the 80s. Yeah, yeah, I love that too. A lot of stuff in almost any live stream, like look at this thing. I think this came out in it wasn't 1967, but this is like 80s era technology and yeah, she's doing it. Definitely a wonderful part of the hobby. But yeah, anyway, I think I'll finish off the live stream. Thank you all so much for joining in this evening and really appreciate all the nice comments and the super chats and really just chatting with all of you in general. It's a wonderful time as usual. And glad that most of the stuff worked out. We'll have to do some work on the Selkirk and a couple others. But, considering this thing has been operating well as a Tyco, I think it's not too bad. Anyway, call it a night there. Bye, everyone.